I get kicked out of Harvard, and I spend 2 years doing jack shit.
March 2025. A 21-year-old opens a letter from Columbia University. 1 year. Suspended for a violation of academic integrity. His crime? Getting a job offer. 3 months earlier, Roy Lee built a piece of software in 4 days, an invisible AI overlay that sat on his screen during a live interview, reading the problem and feeding him the answer before he'd finished reading the question himself. He called it Interview Coder. He used it on Amazon. He got the offer. Then he did the one thing that should have made this disappear quietly. He posted it. All of it. Every answer, every keystroke, uploaded for anyone to watch. Amazon rescinded the offer. Columbia suspended him. Roy didn't wait it out. He dropped out. He'd just torched an Ivy League degree for cheating in public, on camera, on purpose. And it was the best thing that ever happened to him. Most people hear AI and cheating in the same sentence and think they already know how this ends. This story goes the other way. This is the story of how one very bad decision to hit upload turned into a $120 million company. To understand why Roy did it, you have to understand what he was up against. Before Interview Coder, Roy was just another Columbia computer science student chasing a job at a big tech company. And like every developer chasing those jobs, that meant one ritual above all others: LeetCode. LeetCode is a website. It hosts thousands of algorithm puzzles, abstract riddles about sorting, searching, and data structures, with names like to-sum and trapping rainwater. Companies like Google, Meta, and Amazon use them as the front door to a job. To get hired, you don't prove you can build software. You prove you can solve puzzles under a clock. And here's the problem almost every working engineer will tell you. Those puzzles have almost nothing to do with the actual job. A back-end developer will never, in a normal career, need to reverse a binary tree from memory in 20 minutes with a stranger watching. But the interview demands it. So an entire industry of developers spends months, sometimes years, grinding practice problems. Roy did the same thing everyone does. Hundreds of hours of practice. He got fine at it. He also thought the whole thing was theatre. And a lot of people who've done it would agree with him. It's a calculator problem, really. Nobody calls it cheating when a calculator does your math. Somewhere in Roy's head, the interview had stopped being a test of skill and become a test of who was willing to waste the most time. So he built a tool to break it. By 2025, tech interviews had mostly moved online. You join a video call, share your screen, and solve a problem live while an engineer watches. To stop exactly the kind of thing Roy was about to do, companies layer on proctoring software, watching for a second screen, flagging anything that looks like outside help. Interview Coder was built to beat all of it. By Roy's own description, it was completely invisible to the software companies use to monitor your screen. The interviewer saw a candidate thinking. What they couldn't see was the second layer, reading the problem and generating the answer. It worked on the first real test, Amazon. It spread fast. First through the corner of the internet, where software engineers actually live. The clip hit a nerve that had been raw for a decade. Every developer who'd ever resented the LeetCode grind suddenly had a face for the frustration. And a kid reckless enough to say out loud what they'd only muttered. The game is rigged, so I broke the game. He could have gone quiet, apologized, tried to make it all disappear before it cost him more than a job offer. Roy did the opposite. When Columbia moved to suspend him, he posted that too. And virality did something strange. It protected him. The bigger the story got, the harder it became for anyone to quietly punish him for it. A private disciplinary hearing is easy to lose. A public one, with the whole internet watching, is a different thing entirely. He'd turned his own suspension into a launch event. Roy already knew Interview Coda had an expiration date. The moment companies changed how they ran interviews, a different tool, an in-person round, a patch detector, it would stop working. He hadn't built a company, he'd built a stunt with a shelf life. So 6 weeks after he left Columbia, he launched something bigger. Cluely, same invisible AI overlay, but now aimed at everything. Meetings, sales calls, presentations, exams, even dates. The pitch was as blunt as the tool. Cheat on everything. The launch video showed Roy using it live on a date, an AI feeding him lines through a translucent overlay while a real woman sat across from him. Reactions split fast. Some called it visionary, others said it looked like a scene from a dystopian show about where technology was taking us. It was polarizing on purpose. It worked anyway. Cluely raised $5.3 million in days. Not because investors thought cheating was fine, but because Roy had already proven the one thing every venture capitalist actually bets on. He'd do the thing everyone else was too scared to do, and walk away standing. 2 months later, Andreessen Horowitz, one of the most powerful venture firms on the planet, led a $15 million Series A. Investors watching the deal put the valuation at around $120 million, priced on a kid's willingness to burn a bridge on camera. 5 months earlier, Roy had been a computer science student nobody had heard of. Now he was running a venture-backed company. And then, the story he'd built everything on started to quietly disappear. By the middle of 2025, Cluely had scrubbed any mention of cheating on job interviews off its own website, stepping away from the very thing that made it famous. In hindsight, that was the first sign something didn't add up. In July, Roy told a reporter Cluely had hit $7 million in annual recurring revenue. Headlines followed. Investors got more confident. The story kept climbing. It wasn't true. 8 months later, on March 5th, 2026, Roy posted a public retraction. The real number was closer to $5.2 million. He called the $7 million figure the only outright dishonest thing he'd said publicly, though he'd also told a second story about how that interview happened, claiming a reporter cold called him out of nowhere when it was actually his own PR team that set it up. Rather than let it sit, Roy answered with a defiant, unapologetic video, brushing off the fabricated number as fractionally wrong, and doubling down instead of walking it back. By then, Cluely had already repositioned itself again, away from cheat on everything, towards something a lot safer, an AI note-taker for meetings. So, 2 stories, 1 founder. Which one is actually true? Here's the uncomfortable answer. Both of them. He lied about exactly one number, $7 million that was really 5. And eventually, he admitted it. But everything that number bought him, the headlines, the funding, the $120 million company, all of that was real. And it worked. That's the part that should bother you. Because the lie was never the strategy, the provocation was. Cheat on everything, get kicked out on purpose, post the evidence yourself. In an economy built on attention, the outrage was never a side effect. It was the product. And Roy understood something most people spend an entire career refusing to see. The line between building a company and marketing one is gone. Being talked about is the moat. So this was never really a story about one dishonest founder. It's a blueprint. And there is a generation watching him right now, taking notes. So before you decide he's the villain, remember how you got here. You clicked. You watched. You sent him to someone else. The attention economy isn't something happening to us. It's something we vote for every single day. He just counted the votes first. The Anthropologist filed under the ones who understood the game. If this made you see the game a little differently, the next one goes deeper. Subscribe.